Hey Hollywood Hills fans, and welcome to this week's show. So as you've seen, we have been flat out, me and the LiveX boys have been all over the place for the last couple of weeks. Last week it was all about Farm Jam and we smashed out that edit. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Very entertaining, and we know that that's probably the last mud race of the year that we will see. Fingers crossed. Last week, it was all about Forge Racing. So they had a massive entry, really good numbers on the page, and fantastic racing out there at the Bronx. This comes off the success story that was the end of last year and the opening round of this year. This is round number 2 of the Forge Racing season, and we saw a couple of surprise pro entries, but awesome racing across the board. The juniors were banging bars, the quads were having a great time out there, and all the motorcycles went out there and did a beating 6 laps of racing in the afternoon. This is Forge Racing, round number 2 from the Bronx.
Okay, brother, we're here. Race day. How are you feeling?
Excited. It's a bit cold, but got everything in, done and dusted. So yeah, now we're ready for everything. So no, I'm excited. We've got great entries, picking up as we aim for. So we started small, and we're still growing. So got a lot of space for the quads left, but numbers are not bad. Two-wheelers, juniors, fantastic numbers. So I'm pretty happy.
Brother Bry, we're back at the Bronx, and you've been dying to have a race at the Bronx for years, man.
Yeah, man, it's cool. I've kind of never raced here. I've heard the guys have raced here before. I came out a week or two ago just come and have a look at it. I hear it's tough. I hear it's in your face. So yeah, it's good. No rain, hopefully not too much dust. I hear there's a little bit of water, but you know, it is what it is.
It's going to be super busy though. It's just chatted to Anton. We've finally got some good quad numbers, man.
Yeah, look, it's the numbers. I kind of watched the numbers over the last week or so, and it started off a bit slow, but I saw they gained the momentum nicely, which I'm happy for the guys. It's great. Yeah, we've got a nice big gate today, so hopefully some good racing.
It seems to be positioned nicely as well. A couple of weeks before the GXCC, so nice dust off time.
Yeah, look, it's a great training ride. It's prep for the GXCC. It's a nice tough track. Dust off a few cobwebs, get some issues ironed out. Yeah, 2 weeks before a big race again, nothing wrong with that.
Kareen, we're always looking for places for you guys to race and practice. This looks like it's going to be an ideal day for you.
I hope so. I believe so. I've been here once and practiced about 2 years back, and it was fun. It was hard and tough, but it was fun. So I believe it's going to be awesome.
I think it's going to be busy, but obviously the first time you brought the new quad out, so she's a bigger girl.
Yes, she is. Much faster, much more power. Love it. And yeah, just always looking for that another gear, you know.
Dude, with a name like Godrich, obviously you know this area. Tell me what we can expect this morning on this track.
I'm gonna try to get a 5th place. Yeah.
Nice top 5.
Yeah.
But the terrain here, does it suit your riding style?
Yeah.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
And what kind of setup have you got going on your bike for this?
Just my regular setup.
Lucas, you're on a burner in 2023. Obviously more racing is just more results for you. Hey, you feeling good about this one?
Yeah, I'm really hoping for good results. We have a lot of fast kids in our class, like Liam and Vanna. But yeah, really hoping for a good day today.
You're getting powerful, and I see your dad's putting you on the big bikes for the afternoon as well.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get used to 125 and big bike racing for next year, so yeah.
As is customary, the morning session was going to be opened up with our quad racers. Q1s and 2s would be first out at the gate to see what they could do. They'd be the first guys to see what was ahead of them on the 23-kilometer loop out at the Bronx. Remember, most guys knew how this track was going to be running, but for the race day, we spun it backwards with a few little extras thrown into the mix. Flag drop time. As the riders went out there, it was clear there was a little bit of morning dew on the ground, so the quads were going to be cleaning up the track nicely for the riders. Q1s and 2s would predictably be some of the fastest guys to go out there. See what they could do out into the track. Some early mud in the loop as well would tell the story of the quad event for the rest of the day. No one knew the lap times until the end of lap number 1. Then we could predict how the rest of the day was going to run.
Next gate was going to be a busy one for the Masters as well, as we saw Brian Herbst to drop the hammer and get on out there with his sparring partner Smallberger doing the chase down. We also had Fernando de Santos as well as Mario Buerta. So a stacked gate of some very tasty Master Quad races. For the quad ladies, great to see the quad ladies getting on out there. Corinne Thiessen, got to be the lady to beat on the day, but also we had some very, very strong numbers coming in. Zoria de Klerk and Madison Daniil were out there to see what they could do. One or two of the ladies actually doing double duty, racing quads in the morning and bikes in the afternoon. Then it was the chance for the juniors to go out there. The stack gate of 85 juniors, where we saw the Honda getting fired on out there. Liam Skippers is on a burner at the moment with Werner Kleinhams with a long-range tank, throwing a gamble in there. Said he wasn't going to be refueling for the rest of the day, but his bike would be heavy and a challenge on the handling. For the 65, stack gate. John-Luc van der Westhuizen with the whole shot. Wilco Deploy, Derek Milan and Declan Richards. That would be the 4 best 65cc racers at the moment, going and banging bars. On the 50cc's, Eben Scholz getting a good drop off the gate as well, with Sebastian Nell and Shane Nienhaber going to see what they could do out there in the big fields. And of course, some nervous dads chasing them out there to make sure that alles was mooi. Hardly any mud for the little guys to deal with on the day, and a little tiny bit of moist in the early lap for the quads. But the morning session was out of the gate and we were under race conditions. The morning session, 2 hours for the quads and juniors to see what they could do. Before we start climbing the ladder, we chat to Anton about the course laid out for the morning.
Okay, so the junior loop, we've got a small loop at the back. They go through the back, they join in a little piece of the seniors. They come underneath this newly built bridge of ours. They go into the 7-kilometer loop, and from there they come out again. So we got about roughly 8 kilometers that we're working with the juniors. Come back, if possible, they're going to go over the bridge. If not, we've got a detour for them with a Marshall point, so that will be sorted.
First laps in for the juniors, and eventually kids like JL were starting to sky and make some shapes out there. 8 kilometers was pretty much a sprint lap for the juniors, so it was fast and frantic racing action as they figured out how the track was running. Eight Ks for the juniors, 23 Ks for the quads. Let's go out there into the categories and start climbing the ladder. Onto the 50cc gate, Ziggy Bamford walking away with a number 8, with Ashlyn Denton credited with a number 7 finish. Good numbers coming in for the entries for the 50cc's. Nice, clean, easy, safe racing, making sure that all the kids started and all the kids ended. Quinton Vermark getting the job done into a number 6. Remember, this is round 2 of the championship. So by round number 3, which has been announced, and we'll talk about that at the end of the show, as we go to the next venue on the list, everyone will be thinking about championship points, especially the kids that are now running inside the top 5. Number 5 on the day, Matthew Smith, not me, but my little version of myself, going out there on the 1511, getting it done, with his dad making sure that alles was mooi the whole way through the day. Remember, for the 50cc's, chaperones were allowed to go out there to make sure the kids were all good to go and keep on rolling. Arizona Daniil getting it done. Not quite dry Arizona weather conditions out there, but clean enough to go racing without too much aftermarket soap to get the kit clean at the end of the day. In fact, most of the kids coming home squeaky clean with not a drop of dust on them. Little Shane Nienhaber walked away with a number 3 spot on the day. A couple of overshoots in the forest, and the first kid to just whiskey it straight over the big tabletop, but picked himself up nicely and recovered to a number 3 finish. The top 2 were all over each other the whole way through the day though. After pulling the big hole shot, Eben Scholz dropped down to a number 2 spot, but himself and Sebastian Nell were chopping and changing the whole way through the 2-hour racing format until eventually Nell came out on top. For the 65cc gate, once again, some strong numbers. We chatted to little Carter Godrich at the beginning of the day. He walked away with a number 10 ride. Just up the road from him was Leonie Grobler. In fact, Carter and Leonie were dicing it out quite nicely in the early stages of the event as well. Eventually, single digits going the way of Grobler. It was an interesting gate on the 65s where we saw probably the top 5 riders pinning and stretching themselves away, with the rest of the riders still developing and trying to understand the format of racing and how to get the best out of their machines. Armand Buerter was out there walking away with a number 8 finish on the C127, so not bad numbers, and the pace was definitely there. Just needed maybe a little bit more seat time and race time to understand how to go ripping. 65cc gate is a very difficult one. A lot of these kids are making the big move up from the 50s, so it's the first bike with 2 levers on the handlebars to try and figure out. The Daniils have been great supporters of this racing tour, and they're out there on many of the other tours as well. DC Daniil walking away with a number 7 finish, and up the road a huge dice for the number 5 spot all the way through the day. Dalton Powell and Jay Eels, they were duking it out for a 5 and 6 the whole way through the day. Eventually, Eels dropping down to a number 6, giving Powell the credit for a number 5. For the kids, they came back with big smiles on their faces. There was no big technical challenges on the day, so they could really just stretch their legs the whole way through. The morning session was all about a 4-rider split. Declan Richards, Vilko Deploy, Jean-Luc van der Westhuizen and Derek Milan. Eventually, at the halfway marker where fueling strategy started coming into play, 2 groups started to appear. The dice for 3rd place was between Vilko Deploy and Declan Richards, and the fueling strategy went the way of Deploy. Richards, for the Vans Racing Husky squad, dropping down to a number 4 finish, but still on the lead lap and not far off his 3rd place rival. Vilko Deploy for the Rubine Racing squad was up there, like I said, in the early stages. He was one of the first riders to pit and get the fueling strategy and drop on down to a number 4. He eventually closed back in on Richards and made the pass and was credited with 3rd place, but he could not get on the last couple of laps anywhere near the back wheel of these 2 pinners. Jean-Luc van der Westhuizen for Vans Racing absolutely charged the whole way through the day. Looked like he was going to be able to run away with it, but it was a great race to test fueling strategy, to go for the splash and dash or to try and roll the dice and pay the price. Jean-Luc walking away with a solid number 2 spot and the first dude to sky out on the big brand new wooden tabletop. Just a pleasure to watch him. Himself and Derek Milan separated themselves from their sparring partners Deploy and Richards round about the halfway marker of the race, and then after that it was elbows up and pin wide open. Milan credited with a big win, and his first big win in a long time as well, so that'll do his confidence a real big boost. He walks away as an outright winner. To watch these kids on the 65s, it was just magic out there. And then the big dogs out there on the 85cc's. Once again, one of our biggest gates of the morning session. Nikita Frampton down there in a number 10 with Caleb Sneyman walking away with a number 9. Actually rocking out there on Juno Oosthuizen's old machine. Still kept the race number as well. Azario Giannakis got it done out there as well. Good to see the Giannakis squad coming out there to come racing with us. A number 8 finish on a freshie as well. Pretty much took the stickers off this bike and came on racing. Xavier Pino was up the road in a number 7, just battling to stay on the lead lap. And then Chris Harmser Jr. Now Chris was one of the junior riders on the 85cc's that would be doing double duty on the day. So getting out there, credited with a very solid number 6 finish on the day, riding for VW Mastercars Hatfield. And then he would get onto a 125 to go racing in the afternoon, trying to get himself ready for the big move up into the OR4s for next year. Tournée Tienpont, she went down in the early stages of the race, so she had a couple of crashes, and then she was able to rebound, make a ton of passes out there on the course, and get herself up there to a number 5. Remember the name, Tournée Tienpont. She is charging at the moment. Without those mistakes, she could have been battling for a podium. Up the number 4 spot, and a pretty lonely number 4 the whole way through the day. No problems in the early laps, not a bad gate as well. And down there into a number 4, consistent and solid. And then Werner Kleinams talked about the fact that he was running the big extender tank on his 85, so he was carrying a quite a severe weight penalty in the early stages, and I think that actually cost him some energy on a very tight, technical and twisty track out there at the Bronx. In the early stages of the day though, he was duking it out with Liam Schippers. Schippers eventually started to gap him and run off the front. Schippers is on a burner at the moment, coming off wins at Farm Jam and GXCCs. He was looking to try and see if he could go for the three-peat. Glenham's dropping down and just falling off the back wheel of the charging Schippers. But there was one man up the road that they could not get on terms with, and that was the VW Mastercars Hatfield rider, Drickus van der Merwe. He is on a ripper at the moment. And to take it and beat Schippers, that is a big brag as well. Van der Merwe is on a ripper at the moment, and he takes charge here at the Bronx. We caught up with the kid after the flag. He was stoked. Drickus, you get a little bit dizzy out there, man. Lots of laps.
No, it was a very choppy track and it just made me tired.
Yeah.
My back can definitely feel it today.
Now, I know you're doing double duty, so you're going to go straight on the next bike, eh?
Yeah, I'm hoping I'm going to finish. Well, I'm going to finish, but yeah, hoping for good results there also. Yeah.
Liam, awesome race, and you looked like you were closing in on Drickus in the mid part there, but lost him at the end.
Ja, dit was die altyd so en my arms kon nie meer nie, so ja.
Derek, that was a cracking race, you and John Luke, and it came down to, looked like fueling strategy, hey?
Nice, bumpy.
I was just chatting to your dad, he said he can't believe how many laps you guys did out there. How rough were the conditions?
It was rough. A lot of bumps, rocks.
Cool reactions from the kids, and here's confirmation of the wins. 85 going to Van der Merwe, beating out on Schippers, Clanhams, Rousseau and Tienpont, with Chris Homser Jr. rounding out the top 6. Big gate though on the 85s. We're going to see some different winners throughout this season for sure. On the 65s, Derek Milan takes the big win ahead of John-Luc van der Westhuizen, Deploy and Richards, with Powell, Ills and Daniel taking us to a number 7 ride. And on the 50cc gate, the little burners, the fastest little dudes out there, Sebastian Nell getting the win and putting a lap between his closest rival, Scholz, Nienaber, Daniel Smith for Mark, Denton and Bamford. And then take me through the quad loop. Obviously, we know this is really good quad-friendly racing area. Yes. What have they got?
So also starting off here, we'll firstly hit the 25k loop, going backwards. We've got a lacquer water area at the bottom. So there is some water, but I went through there, I can drive there. So we're going through there, going up all the way, doing lots of loops, plenty. There's a few cautions, everything marked properly. A great wood section. From the wood section we come back, and as soon as the guys think they're finished, they go back into the 5k loop, and there's like a sand area there, a little bit of rocks, but not too much. And then they'll come back out this side, over the bridge, clock, and repeat.
So the quads were first out there onto the big 23k loop. Yeah, there was a little bit of mud, but there was some sneaky sniper lines, as we like to call them, where you could just skirt around the edges. In the quad wows, it was Vilma Hankuts that got it done. Just the one entry, but we'll make sure that she lines up in the ladies' gate next time out, because it looked like she had a great time out there. Anna Just was out there with a number 5 ride, chasing down on Charmaine Monroe. A lot of ladies bringing their stock quads out there, and the good news was most of them were able to finish the full complement as well. Madison Daniel taking a number 3 wide, with Zania de Klerk walking away with a number 2 finish on the day. Now Zania was one of the ladies that I mentioned in the early part of the show that would be going out there and doing double duties. So she went out, did 2 hours of racing on the quads before going out and doing almost 3 hours of racing on the bikes. But it was Corinne Thiessen that walked away with the big win. She was the pre-race favourite and expected to walk away with the numbers. She was a little bit nervous about the quad in the early part of the morning though, stating that there was some water coming out of the engine somewhere. That's never a good thing, but she lined up, she took the flag, and she brought it home to the finish. Now she's going to have to go and find out where that leak was. Brian Herbst in the Quad Masters, yeah, the slow walk to freedom. Unfortunately, Brian having a problem jamming his chain on bike number 1 in the early part of the lap. He trudged back, grabbed bike number 2, which was allowed by the race organisers, and went out to try and climb the ladder. We'll get to Brian just now. So Darren Moyle was out there walking away with number 6 finish. Number 5 going to Johan Nierman. And Mario Buerta in his comeback season, trying to get as much racing under his belt as possible. He'll have been happy with a number 4 finish, but he said this was super hard work for the quads out there. A super busy track. Can you hear the drums? Fernando De Santos was into a number 3 ride, deciding lastminute.com to come Forge Racing with us. And then, if you can believe it, coming from the back and plowing the field all the way up into the number 2 spot was Brian Herbst. So De Santos would have been shocked to see this guy go ripping. Brian's putting in the time and trying to get his quads dialed in as he goes forward into the rest of the championship racing season. 2 spot on the day, and what would have potentially been a win. But that long walk and the problems on lap number 1 causing him issues before he eventually went out there and set the fastest lap time, but unfortunately would not walk away with the win. 2nd place on the day for Flying Brian. The win on the day did go to the ever consistent and affable Francois Smallberger. He also complained about mechanicals on the day, suffering with a slipping clutch, which eventually turned out to be a slipping axle. But the old Honda was able to still get the job done. He ran clear numbers, 3rd place overall on the day, and 1st in the Masters. Smallberger will be stoked on that one, and also starting to look very good for the championship as we head to round number 3 in August. The Q1 and Q2 riders went out there together. René de Klerk, the only Superbike racing helmet out there. Of course, he didn't run the visor down much, but he did manage to bring it home with the Q1 win. We're hoping to get a few more Q1 riders out there on the gate as we move forward into the rest of the season. The riders that were out there ripping it on the Q2s though. Rupert Ferry was out there charging, walking away with a number 4 finish, with Azar Amoraji getting it done with a number 3 ride. As the morning session went on, the little mud bogs got a little bit wider, and the riders were trying to figure out how to get the best traction and maybe stay away from some of the roost. Other riders just gripped it and ripped it. Number 2 spot on the day going to Robbie Thompson, and the big win on the day and the overall going to Kevin Janssen van Vuren. Top couple of quads were absolutely dialed in out there, and Janssen van Vuren and Thompson walking away with a 1 and 2 in the Q2s, but also a 1 and 2 in the overalls. Brian, your face is telling me a story. Now tell me that story.
Yeah, I don't know, but it seems I just can't get my head around the Forge one. Last one I had a problem, lap 1, this one again, about 5 k's in, down the right at the bottom end of the track, hit something and the chain came off, wound up into the swing arm. That was in it, so I had a long scenic walk back, jumped on plan B and went for a ride. Pushed hard and yeah, is what it is, I guess. So yeah.
Give me some feedback on the track as an experienced racer.
Yeah, look, it's a tough track. You work the whole time. There's just no sitting back, and when you think you're going to sit back and relax, you hit something and you go, no, I must pay attention now. So it's a good workout. I mean, it's fantastic. It's not fast, but it's you know, it's nice and it's a hard workout. I enjoyed it. It was really good.
Tough, busy, testing and rewarding morning for the quaddies. De Klerk gets the win in the Q1s. Kevin Janssen van Vuren beats out Thompson into the Q2s. In the Masters, confirmation of Smallberger getting it done over Herbst. The only 2 riders to go out on a 4-lap racing format with De Santos, Buerta, Neerman and Moyle. And then in the quad ladies, Thiessen getting it done. Only rider to go on a 4-lap format, beating out on De Klerk, Daniel, Monroe and Just. And Wilma Hankutz take in the quad wows. That's the morning session wrapped. Now we get ready for the afternoon session with a stacked field of 2-wheelers. Such a fun thing that the Forge Racing guys have done as well. Not only laying out the regular categories, but allowing a pro category where all of the pro licensed riders can line up and see what they can do. They would be first out the queue, and we caught up with a couple of familiar names before we went out into the fields. Laurie, it's your comeback season, but also you get to do some of these cool little races, right, eh?
Yeah, yes, Matt, exactly like you say. You know, in the past when we were so full-time racing and chasing championships, not that we don't now, but now we've got more time to do fun events. But yeah, what a great turnout. Well done to the organisers. It's my first one here at the Forge Racing Series, and so far so good. We're excited. I know this track. Bronx is a favourite for me to come and train at, so it's nice to race something that you're familiar with, but in the same breath it's a rough track. So yeah, it's gonna be rough, it's gonna be fun. The weather's not so hot today, so we're looking forward to a good day.
I had to laugh when I saw the pro gate because it's all yokes. It's all yokes, all the money, but all age group categories as well.
Yeah, I had a joke with Wayne Farmer. He says, no, events like this, we're all in the same pot. So exactly like that, you know. And when I entered, there was no really pro guys, well, not pro guys, but the national guys. And then lastminute.com, everyone's here, so which is cool, you know. It's good training, it's good preparation, it's good for setup, it's good for nutrition testing or whatever you want to try new. These are awesome events to do that. So yeah.
Brother, lekker to be out here at these small races. There's no pressure, but I know you like to race.
I like to race. I heard it's quite fast. Well, fast in terms of hard braking, hard acceleration, not too much rocks. These short legs don't like the rocks. But yeah, I'm out here to have some fun. A whole bunch of big names actually rocked up. So I heard very good things about the first event. Thought let's come out here and race. No better practice than racing. And cool thing about racing is you ride on terrain that you would never ride normally. I've ridden so many cool places over the past year, being back in racing, and I love it. I mean, I just love it.
You were telling me before we came here, you've got your dad, you drag your dad out racing. There's a bit of a story though, eh?
Yeah, the old man is still quick. He's turning 70 this year. Used to be a legend in the racing. He got us into racing, that's why we do this today. And I convinced him, so he's on the Sherco too, and he'll be riding in the Masters class with us. And for me, you know, at 69, I just hope he finishes the race injury free. And it's an awesome day and event. It's actually a bit of an emotional affair because to have your dad race with you at this age, I think is something really special.
Peter, you're on the comeback trail, so any racing is good training for you, eh?
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, just want to feel where I'm at. So yeah, don't have any expectations. Just gonna see where it goes, and yeah, I'm here to enjoy it. Yeah, that's the main reason.
It's a bit cold out. Saw the quads a bit muddy. I know it's twisty and turny, so I'm expecting all of it ready for anything.
So all the riders locked and loaded. Pro Gate would be the first guys out. Who was going to get the cheese and run the numbers? When the flag dropped, a couple of riders stalling out there, and it was B Farmer that would appear out front. Unfortunately for Farmer, he would have a crash early on lap number 1, cruise the next couple of laps, and eventually would be stepping out, leaving the rest of the big dogs to go out there and see what they could do. On his wheel in the early stages was Eric Merry, and he would take over the lead in the early part of the running of the pro event. On the gate, we went back and focused in on the OR1s, where Drickus van der Merwe, after walking away with the win in the 85s, stepped on his dad's 500, yes, his 500, and went out there and ran clear air to try and see what he could do about winning in the afternoon as well. OR2's interesting situation where we saw Vincent van Rooij getting on out there. How cool was that? We chatted to the guy that went out there and pulled the whole shot. Maybe we gave him the confidence he needed to get out there and pull the pin. OR3s was a little bit wild, as it always is with the 250s. It's often one of the biggest gates out there, so these guys were banging bars, and there was a little bit of chaos out of the start queue, which blew the field apart in the early laps until they could get themselves settled down. For the seniors, Jannie Potgieter for the VW Masterclass Hatfield squad got it done on the big 5 honey. He would go out there and see what he could do. We had also Chris Harmser Senior out there. He was running in the early stages inside of that top 5. And on the Masters gate, a lot of guys out there. Charles van Rooij, Kobus Jonk. We had Van der Walt and JJ de Waal going out there. No one really knew who was going to walk away with the cheese on the Masters gate. This was going to be a very, very interesting challenge with a lot of key riders out there on that one. For the ladies, the pocket rocket always getting the big jump. That's Nicole Duplessis. Wanda Mo, though, would be able to hunt her down in the early laps and pull the pin. Zaria Farid was also out there charging as always on the 250 Yami. The Wows, a lot of these guys were first-time Forge racers, but first-time racers as well. So they'll be going out there, learning the track, understanding what it is to go cross-country hare scramble racing, and just enjoy their time out there. The WOW class, always the best to see what these guys can do and the stories that come out of these guys at the end of the day. That was our last gate to go out of the afternoon session. We went back to the pits and chatted to Anton about what was in store for the motorbikes. And then just a note for the afternoon session, I was giggling and talking to the boys. How's that pro gate? We've got some of the mana here, eh?
There's some quick oaks there, and I'm glad they're coming. It's good practice for them, and I'm glad the guys are pitching up to come and practice. We're safe, we've got excellent paramedics. We got like a 6 or 8 here, so we're ready for anything. So that's good. I'm glad, man.
All riders out into the field and figuring out how the track was running. The WOW class gave us huge entries, well over 20 riders splashing and roosting their way around the track. And you can see from the feedback on the riders, there's not too much dirt on them. There was some sneaky lines that appeared on the mud. The track was able to keep on rolling without any adjustments on the day. Francois Bosch was good enough to get into a number 10 ride with Davy Daniel up there into a number 9. Jason Farrow on one of the old RM 250 smokers. Man, that thing was old, but I'll tell you what, it made it all the way through to the finish. Not as old as this guy or this bike as well. And I can say that because he's a good friend of ours. Bertus Becker out on the Yamaha IT, still rocking it out there, bringing it to the finish. No vintage category thus far at Forge Racing, so he lined up where he could. Michael Barnard got himself into the coveted top 6. Smashed out those laps, lap after lap. Duval van der Merwe also breaking into the top 5 with a little bit more experience. Good setup on his machine. He brought the Husky home with some good numbers. As the riders went through the day though, the track did whoop up. Remember, this is essentially a practice track that the guys are out on almost every single weekend. It got hard work, it really did. The riders' elbows started high and ended low. Cobus Vermeulen was out there rocking it to a number 4 finish. Martinez Cilia getting up into a number 3. The top 2 dudes though were the class of the field. We saw Dylan Bierkus taking it to a number 2 ride. And his pace showed that he can probably line up into one of the pro gates quite soon. He definitely had some good line choices, clever strategies through the mud, not going down, staying nice and clean the whole way through the day. But there was one dude faster than him, and that was Chris Harmser Jr. from the VW Mastercars Hatfield squad. A great story because he is just too big for the 85. This is the first time he's been out there racing on an old RM 125. Just fits in all the way. He's almost 6 foot tall now, is Chris. He has been practicing on the 125, but this is the first time he's taken it out in anger. And the first time he's taken the big win. This guy will be one to watch from now on. For the ladies class, we had an awesome result where we had top 10 finishers confirmed. Almeen Deploy was out there getting it done on the P55. This is little Vilko's mom as well, so she did a stellar job. Long time since she's been racing. Nikita Frampton was up there into a number 9 finish on one of the smaller bikes out there. Also being able to get it done, bring whatever you've got, line up on the ladies' gate. Zania de Klerk, one of the superstars of the day, the Iron Woman of the day as well, walking away with a podium in the quad racing category and then onto the bike with a number 8 ride. She'll have been super tired at the Bride later on that night. Chantal Frampton also rocking out there on one of the smaller machines, but got it done into a number 7, even though she went farming out to find some traction in the mud. 2 of those young ladies out there on 85cc machinery, the rest on some bigger bikes. Monique Lombard squeaking her way inside of a number 6, and the ladies really felt it. The great challenge about the Bronx is it is chopped up and whooped up, so you have to stand up most of the time to stay above the bumps, and of course that just costs and spends so much energy. Shelley Compain is a solid racer. She's out there on a lot of the other tours and walks away with a credited number 5. Nicole Duplessis, the pocket rocket, got it done in the early stages with a big hole shot and did eventually fade back to number 4, but shows that she's putting in a little bit of extra training between the events nowadays. Tyler Frampton was out there on the smoker, the YZ, getting it done. Frampton has impressed a lot of people so far, especially with her shape and her style on the bike. Lovely straight back. Allows her to get that weight forward and tuck in that front end to get that traction. She was beaten on the day by another Yami. This is the 4-stroke version of the 250, Zaria Farid. one of the stars of the Farm Jam Racing Tour, and starting to just get herself used to clicking the gears at the flatland races. Only beaten by one lady on the day, and that was Von der Moog. Also, very strong in the rocks and the technical riding, and a lot of the ladies said they have started to eyeball the Forge Racing Tour with a little bit more seat time, safe racing, and a good test for them in the setup of themselves and their bikes. Von der Moog walks away with the win on the day, and solid lap times that scared a couple of the riders out there on the rest of the men's gates. For the Masters category, huge numbers on the day, and definitely top 5 were pinners. The rest of the riders just trying to figure out how to get the job done. Willem King was out there rocking and rolling, looking super factory on the Honda, and Stewie Holiday. Haven't said his name for a very long time, so of course he's just been looking for a tour that suits his riding style, and he's found it here at Forge Racing. Viapia Fasaki dialed in on one of the old factory KTMs, looking good, splashing his way to a number 8 ride with Picky Compagne. Compagne's bringing a massive squad of riders in their pit to come racing here at the Forge Racing. JJ Duvall got a good gate in the early morning and eventually dropped down to a number 6 ride, so not bad numbers on the page for JJ. Just trying to figure out the setup on his bike. Good at the high-speed stuff. He said maybe this was a little bit slow for him. He wanted to find 5th gear a little bit more. A whole bunch of the VW Mastercars guys grouped together, running from 6 all the way through into the number 4 spot. JJ Duvall down in number 6, Dick Bessinger into a number 5. Oh, it was so close. Bessinger almost roosting himself out there and going for an early bath. The front end hooked just in time in the bog to keep him upright. And then Peter Jourdan walking away with the bragging rights as the highest placed rider in that squad off the Masters gate, taking a number 4 ride. There was a good bunch of riders though, running from a 3 down to a number 7 until eventually the gap started to explode towards the end of the day, and it was just rider fatigue that started to come into play. Those gaps developed. Charles Van Roy chatted to his son in the early morning session. Both father and son had great days at the office walking away with podiums. The big guy, Kobus Jonk, does like things a little bit more fast and wide open, but he's only just recently stepped onto the CIT sleepover Honda racing squad for Harry Krobler, so he's putting in some setup time on the bike before he goes forward into the rest of the season. And then this guy, whoa, he is on a burner at the moment, coming off podiums at GXCCs and Farm Jams, and now the big win out at round 2 of the Forge Racing on the Sherco. It's Anthony van der Walt. Huge story for this guy on the day, and a massive boost in his confidence for the rest of the season. For the seniors, massive numbers once again, and to break it inside the top 5 was going to be a tough one into the top 10. Johan Bosch got it done. Smooth and consistent as ever. As with this guy, he is factoried up to the max. Gerard Foster looking good for the CIT Franchise Co. Sleepover squad. Also wanted it a little bit quicker, but very, very good seat time, and that's what everyone said. It's like a training racing day out at Forge Racing, so it's real good. You can test yourself, your nutrition, your bike setup, your suspension, get everything done, tweak it in the pits, and go out there and carry on racing. Steven Kurtzer was out there into a number 8 finish, chasing down on the back wheel of Sean Spencer, and then big Chris Harmser putting in the seat time. He's been racing flat out for the last 3 weeks, and 6th place on the day was a good number for the main man for the VW Mastercars Hatfield squad. He'll be happy with that as he gets more and more comfortable on the 350. Always cool to hang out with Chris out there track, one of the most vocal riders. You know if he's having a good day or a bad day in equal measure. Number 5 on the day, just up the road from Big Chris, was Henry Krobler. Just a little bit more comfortable with the whooped out conditions at this track. Mornay Frampton was on the lead lap come the end of the day as well, credited with a number 4 finish. Just up the road from him was JJ Rousseau, the C93, having a very solid day at the office. Remember, the forest section is super whoopy out there. 23 Ks meant that the riders were, most of them, able to get onto the lead lap, rocking 6 laps, but if they didn't, 5 laps was good enough, and a hard day at the office. DJ Milan obviously the father of little Derek Milan, who walked away with the big win in the 65s in the morning session. DJ was out there not too far off the big win himself. Eventually slotting into a number 2 spot. Just couldn't get on the back wheel of his good bud, Yanni Podkida. Podkida was out there looking for some redemption from the last couple of events. He's had a couple of gnarly ones. Just 1 week ago, taking the big 500 out to Farm Jam, jamming up his back brake. He had to retire from that event eventually, but this time he could let the 500 breathe and run and got the big win. Climbing the ladder then as we move forward into the OR3 category. These were the guys that were crazy wild out there. Sean Daly had a couple of big crashes on the day, eventually finishing down in a number 10 ride. With Thino Barrington walking away with the first of the single digits. Threading the needle through some of the swamplands. We did stay away from the gnarly mud that can often appear in the summer seasons out at the Bronx. Just had to use a little bit of the mud just to keep the guys on their toes. But it held together. We still had good feedback from the riders. The cool thing was, there were ways to get on through it. Hansi van der Berg was up there just breaking himself inside of a number 8, having a great dice on the day with Leonard van der Berg. Van der Berg brought the big Kawasaki and smashed his way all the way through. Junior Oosthuizen, one of the coolest kids out there from the junior category racing days. A couple of seasons marred by injuries. Now he has moved up onto the Yami, getting himself used to a little bit more power and onto the big loops as well. 6th place finish for him will keep him pretty happy. Ron Opperman brought some more experience to the gate and walks away with a solid number 5 ride. Remember, most of these guys got caught up in that melee that was the start gate. A little bit of crazy time out there for the 250cc races. Opperman into a number 5. Gideon van Stad working his way up there into a number 4. And the top 3 were burners. The Yami just trying to get a little bit more traction out of his tires. Trevelyan Howard doing some mid-race setup, dropping the tire pressure to find some more hook. Walking away with a number 3 finish come the end of the day. He'll be pretty stoked on that. For the Vans Racing squad, Timmy Blake has been on the up and up and up the whole way through 2023 so far. He'll be happy to walk away with a number 2 finish this time around. Starting to really develop into a comfortable racer. Timmy getting it done and only losing out to a guy that should know this track pretty well. Nathan Godrich. Godrich Toyota just down the road in Bronkhorstspruit. Godrich, former podium placer many times at some of the big GXCCs. Godrich walks away with the OR3 win here at round number 2 of the Forge Racing Tour in 2023. OR2 category was nice and busy. We saw a good bud of mine, Stefan Labuskachny. He looked tired at the end of the day, but he got it done. And he put a smile back on his face when he loaded and headed on home. 9th place up the road from him was a huge dice. In fact, 8 and 9 the whole way through the day. Davy Prinsloo walking away with a number 9. 8th place up the road from him was Johannes Grobler. These guys were all over each other the whole way through the racing day, and that's what you want. You want to find a bud, or you want to find a dude out there that runs the same pace as you. Get your elbows up and go racing. Bang those bars. Cameron Farrell knows what he's doing. He's a bit of a pinner. He likes to click through the gearbox a little bit more, so maybe this race was a little slow for him. Number 7 ride will keep him happy and in the championship hunt as well. Janko Vanny Kirk getting it done inside of a number 6. One of the small dudes out there did figure out a good setup on his bike and dance his way above some of the mud and whoops. Maybe that's the trick. Number 5 ride on the day going to Jandre Visser on the 251. Worked well in the whooped out track as it just got gnarlier as the day went on. Ben Vessels knows what he's doing in this type of terrain, and it showed that he had a sweet spot bike setup going on. One of the freshy KTMs coming out to race at Forge Racing. Remember, the whole concept of Forge Racing is to give the guys tracks that are super rideable but also super raceable and allow the riders to develop before they go out to some of the bigger tours. Ben Vessels to a number 4 finish. Brandon Herbst to a number 3 ride on one of the older KTMs out there, but he knows what he's doing as he danced the bike all the way through the day. Estienne Kutzer on the C552, walking away with a number 2 ride. And he definitely enjoyed his time out there in the early stages, trying to get onto the back wheel with the eventual race winner. But the pin was pulled with about 2 laps to go. That meant there was no closing of the gap as Vincent Van Rooy walked away with the big one. Remember, we chatted to him on the line. We sent him out with the big hole shot, and he never looked back. Van Rooy, remember that name. This guy is going to be one to watch in the rest of the championship tour as he chases down the OR2 big number 1 plate. His lap times showed he could have run with the pro category actually. So 2 classes to go as we climb the ladder all the way to the tippy top, the OR1 Big Bangers. These are the guys out there on 300 2-strokes or 450 and above. They said the big bikes were a handful on this track. Manus Kotzer walking away with number 10, Ernie Scholz with a number 9, Justin Hartsleeve into the number 8 with Christo Ayers smashing his way through the mud bog. The guy knows exactly how to approach mud and standing water. Lean back, grip it and rip it. Get those toes high and just get her done. Johnny Roos was just outside the magical top 5 onto a number 6 ride with Owen Fenter up the road from him into the magical number 5. Elbows high on one of the old Kawasaki's, and that's also what we have seen coming out of Forge Racing Squad. Old 2-stroke smoker KX, gotta love it. Guy was definitely on the money. Thorne Blake was up there a little bit higher up the road on the big 450. The big guy from Vans Racing on the Husky walking away with a rock solid number 4 ride. Thorne was pretty happy with his result come the end of play as well. And all the riders said it was magic to go out there and just make your arms really hurt. You know you've earned your finish line. From Thorne Blake, we climbed the ladder up to Timmy Dreyer. Timmy comfortable in this type of terrain as well, as he figured out some sneaky lines through the mud. Drickus van der Merwe was a huge story of the day, as well as his teammate Chris van der Merwe Jr., both rocking out good results in the morning session, and then Drickus on a 500 on his dad's race bike, getting it up into a number 2 spot. It's also a facility that is available to the riders out at Forge Racing. And then J-Dog, Jason Lightfoot, very much an all-rounder, knows what he's doing at GXCC, Farm Jam and Forge Racing. This was just custom made for Jason as he walked away with his first big win of the season in the OR1s. And then on to the final category of the day. It was the Pro Gate, an interesting mixed bag of riders across the board, from seniors to masters to all of the pro categories. Shane Nienhaber, that's medium-sized Shane, getting it done out there for the VW Mastercard squad, taking a number 10. Jean-Andre Olivier, and we were expecting to see him run inside the number 5s, but he had some issues on the day, dropping down to a number 9 finish come the end of play. All good racing, all good practice, and a great mix of different riders on the gate as well. Francois Swanepoel, one of those mixed bag of riders, a nationally ranked master racer, able to run out there with the youngsters and take a number 8 ride on the day. Brandon Kotzer was just up the road from him, so just an incredible situation that was brought into play by Forge Racing, allowing the Pro Gate riders to race with the age group category nationally ranked riders as well. Brandon Kotzer, riding on the big Kawasaki 450 for the VW Mastercard squad, was up there into a number 7, having some great racing, and actually looked like he really enjoyed his time out there, getting the setup on his machine. He was having a ding-dong battle the whole way through the day, and that was the fight for number 6 on the numbers. Matty Sneeman eventually walking away with that one. It looked like the 2 strokes on this category, in this dice in particular, had the advantage, just staying above the whoops a little bit lighter. Sneeman, sure, when he's on form, he can really run. The guys inside the top 5, though, were a little bit ahead of the rest of the field. Vernon Nordier on the 350 Vans Racing Husqvarna really has come to life this year. He's focused on a little bit more of the technical riding, so he's out there just to see what he can do and get some seat time in at the Forge Racing Series. He'll have been happy with a number 5 ride, especially against the riders that were on the rest of the gate and the riders that finished just up the road from him. Brandon Faree is a former national junior champion. suffering a lot of injuries in the latter part of his racing career. Starting to come back now, racing out of Raceworks KTM. Surprised a few dudes out there with a big number 4 bar banging race. He was up there with the race leaders in the early part of the event, and then as the track started to whoop up, fitness came into play. Peter Karam was in the number 3 spot. Unfortunately, it was a lonely number 3 spot the whole way through the day. Karam also coming back from a massive injury at round number 1 of the National Championship. He was back just to get that old magic running, and he showed that he can still grip it and rip it on the Roost KTM with a number 3 ride on the 250. So cool to watch these national guys wide open. And then the story of the day was a 2-horse race, a 250cc Honda and a 450cc Honda. Eric Merry and Lawrence Mahoney. The early day was owned and run by Eric Merry. He eventually made the pass on lap number 1 on Wayne Farmer when Farmer went down, and then he was gone. But it wasn't long until Lawrence Mahoney started to reel him in and close him down. They were all over each other, lap on lap, until the end of lap number 5, when they came in pretty much on each other's wheels and would also go out together, elbows up. It was a 6-lap race, but eventually it came down to 1 lap when they came in to start their final run. Separated by mere seconds, Merry on the Bikers Warehouse Honda and Mahoney on the CIT Sleepover Racing Honda went out, elbows up, banging. It was a 1-lap sprint to see who would be the champion of the day. Unfortunately, Mahoney went down early on the lap, giving the early advantage to Merry, but Lawrence was not giving up. He would keep fighting. During the lap, the 450 closed down on the 250, and a couple of errors were forced in the hand of Merry. 1 or 2 overshoots, and Mahoney saw clear air. It was a tense battle, and one that will be remembered for a long time for both of these riders. And it's very rare that an overall race finish comes down to mere seconds. That's how close it was. 6 crazy laps, and Lawrence Mahoney takes round number 2 with the fastest lap of the day and the big win over Merry. But there was nothing but respect and admiration between these 2 racers that had been banging bars for 3 hours. After the race, we chatted to the 2 fastest dudes at Forge round number 2, and they were pumped. Well, boys, thanks for the entertainment. Laurie, from your side, I mean, you've got to be pumped.
Man. Yeah, I'm so happy with today. Today was a good test for the bike and fitness, nutrition. You know, not racing for 4 years, I forgot what I need to do on a race. So this was a good test. It was a tough track, rough track. There was never time to even drink. Only place I could drink was in the pits. And then you got this youngster flying today. And I thought if I can just stick with him. And unfortunately, he made 2 mistakes on the second last lap. Managed to close the gap. And then I think on the last lap I caught him by surprise. I snuck up and I got a good pass. Yeah, but well done to this youngster. He's definitely up and coming champ.
Brother, from your side, you had that small advantage on the last lap, but I thought to myself, you're going to have to put the mirrors on now because Lawrence is going to come.
Yeah, I honestly thought that I had him, but I celebrated too early. It was awesome battling with one of the legends of the sport. I'm really happy with the second as well.
I was thinking about it today. I remember riding with Isak when he was a youngster. Now he's kicking my ass. So it's so lucky to see the youngsters come through and the sport's healthy. And well done to the organisers. What a great event.
Yeah, the race was awesome. It
No,
really
marked well. Definitely can recommend it to people to come and support.
Thanks, lads. That's perfect. Thank you. Beautiful job. Lovely
Well
job.
done, champ.
Lovely job, lads. Nice work. Thank you. Nice story. Yeah, there you go. These guys are going to be banging bars for the next few years. No doubt about it. Tough to only be able to call one winner because those guys were solid on the day. Here's confirmation, and look at the time gap. 10 seconds in it come the end of play. Mahoney beating out Merry, Karam, Fari and Nordia. Sneeman just squeaking himself inside of the top 6. That's for the Pro Gate. OR1 Pros, the huge story of the day was, of course, Drickus van der Merwe on the big 500 in second place, but the champion of the day was good old J-Dog, Jason Lightfoot, getting it done. Dreyer, Blake, and Fenter taking us from a 3 to a number 5. Then we start going down the ladder into the OR2 category. Vincent Van Rooy, what a star of the future, the only guy on the gate to make it into a top 6. In other words, he stayed on the lead lap, beating out Kurtzer, Herbst, Vessels, and Visser. Into the OR3s, Nathan Godrich, Nate Dogg getting it done ahead of Timmy Blake, Howard, Van Stud, Opperman, and Oosthuizen. The Vanderbergs were down there, beating out Barrington and Daly. Into the age group categories, the seniors, Yanni Potgieter hammering the nail, putting some time into his good buddy. Around about 2 minutes come the end of play between himself and DJ Milan. JJ Rousseau, Frampton, Krobler, and Chris Harmser Sr. into the top 6. For the Masters category, Anthony van der Walt on the Shoko 300 4-stroke, getting it done, beating out some big dogs out there. Kobus Jonk, Charles Van Rooy, Peter Jordan, Dick Bessinger, and JJ Duval inside of the top 6. For the ladies category, Von der Moe is the ladies champ and the lady to beat, putting 4 minutes into her closest rival, that's Zoria Ferry, Tyler Frampton, Nicole Duplessis, Shelley Compain, and Monique Lombard. Into the wild class, Chris Harmser Jr. takes his first big win of the season with some solid lap times, just squeaking the win ahead of Dylan Bierkus, Martina Cilia, Kobus Vermeulen, and Dewald van der Merwe inside of the top 5. And that is Forge Racing round number 2 out of the Bronx. We hold our breaths as we get ready to go forward into their 3rd round of the championship, and that's going to be at Top Guard. The guys know that track as well, so we're expecting similar racing, bar banging racing action. And it'll be in the heart of winter, so all of those moist spots should be nicely dried out. But Forge Racing and the Bronx delivered some incredible racing action at round number 2 of the championship, and everyone knows that racing will just get better throughout the season. Thanks to all the riders, teams, parents, and supporters that came out for Forge Racing. We'll see you out there on the line at the next one.
So with the Farm Jam Championship for 2023 already at the halfway knuckle of their season, and Forge Racing rapidly heading towards the halfway marker for theirs. Remember, their race is going to be round number 3 in August, so quite a long way until we go Forge Racing once again. But we have got GXCCs. That is going to be the official opener for their halfway marker of the season. That's going to be their magical round number 3. And we go forward into what is the classic race venue of Radium. Out there by Bella Vella plus VAT, just out the back there. Remember, this is the place that got rained out a couple of seasons back, so obviously the date isn't going to cause a problem as far as the rains go, but it is tough, challenging, whooped out, and sandy terrain. Make sure you guys have got all of your core fitness ready to rock and roll, because Radium is coming up next. We'll see you out there.